미주동포 여러분 안녕하십니까? 백TV.com 개국을 축하합니다.
Welcome on this beautiful spring day during Colombia's spring break. So I'm very pleased to see such a large audience, including some loyal students who came just for this event. My name is Charles Armstrong of the Department of History at Columbia and the Weatherhead East Asian Institute. And it is my great pleasure to be one of the co-moderators of this afternoon's very special event with the Honorable Park Geun-hye, Chairperson of the Grand National Party of the Republic of Korea. I will briefly introduce the speakers today and then step down, beginning with Dean David Chiser, Dean of Columbia Law School, who will give a few remarks on behalf of the law school, one of the co-sponsors of the event, along with the Weatherhead East Asian Institute and the Korea Society. Second, there will be a few remarks from Professor Xiaobo Lu, Director of the Weatherhead East Asian Institute. Then the Honorable Donald Gregg, President of the Korea Society, will give a few remarks on behalf of the Korea Society and introduce our speaker this afternoon. Then Chairwoman Park will make her remarks, followed by a question and answer session moderated by Professor Jong-ho Roh, Director of the Center for Korean Legal Studies at Columbia University Law School. So without further ado, I will pass this over to Dean Chiser.
Thank you very much. A couple of weeks ago, I stood up at a dinner and I said, I just wanted to let you know that I will not be speaking. And I got applause. And I learned from this, and what I learned is I'm going to be very brief. I'm so proud that we're hosting this event at Columbia. I like to say to people that you can't build an ivory tower in Manhattan because the skyscrapers block the view. And I think it says something special about the Columbia community. We're committed to exploring the very most important, most cutting-edge issues. And needless to say, the relationship between the United States and Korea is incredibly important. Nothing could be more important. And so I'm delighted to see so many people here with us today, and we're honored to have our distinguished guests with us. So welcome. Thank you for coming. And let me turn matters over to Professor Liu. Thank you.
Offer welcome to all of you. Some of you have attended events here, this campus. But let me just say a few words about Columbia for Madame Park. I don't know if this is your first visit to Columbia, but Columbia University has been dedicated to the study of Korea for almost a century, and we have experts in Korean politics, society, culture, language, history, anthropology, and so on. The Institute, which was established in 1949, has been engaged in the study of Korea for almost more than 50 years. And we especially take pride in the fact that this is the very spot, this building, many of you probably heard of this fact, that this building was the spot where in 1997 there was a four-party talk. In fact, some of a colleague here at present, Professor Armstrong, Professor Roh, was very instrumental to help facilitate that four-party talk here at Columbia. Chairwoman Park's presence and presentation today, speech today, will enhance, obviously, our interest in the study of Korea and in Korean society and politics. And for that, I'm very grateful and honored. Again, I want to offer our welcome, Madame Park. Thank you for coming. Let me now pass to Ambassador Don Gregg.
I've been wondering why I was given the great honor of introducing Chairman Park, and I figured out that it's we both have a tie to Sogang University. You're a graduate of Sogang, and at the end of my tour as ambassador, I was given an honorary degree by Sogang. They did it at night during Christmas vacation because the student body would have objected very much to their giving me the degree. But anyway, I'm very proud of it. You're in for a real treat. We had the honor of having Chairwoman Park speak to the Korea Society this morning on economic issues. She's created a completely different speech on the future of the U.S.-Korea alliance this afternoon. And she handled a wide-ranging array of questions with great skill and grace this morning. I knew President Park Chung-hee quite well. I also knew Madam Yuk. I admire them both deeply, and I think that Madam Park has inherited the best qualities from both of her parents, intelligence and grace, and tremendous capacity to deal with a broad range of issues. So it's my great pleasure and honor to present to you Chairwoman Park Chung-hee.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Craig, for your wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Ne, chairperson of the Grand National Party in Korea. It's a pleasure to meet you. First, I'd like to thank Dean David Schizer of Columbia Law School, Director Xiaobo Liu of Weatherhead East Asian Institute, Ambassador Donald Gregg, President of Korea Society, and particularly Professor Charles Armstrong and Professor Chung Ho Do for giving me this opportunity to address you today. It also delights me to see many members of Columbia community in the audience. As Director Xiaobo Liu just mentioned, Columbia University is a place of great significance to Korea because this is where the first round of the preliminary four-party talks took place in 1997. Today, at this historic site, where the first peace talk for the Korean Peninsula came about, I will speak to you about the most dangerous threat to peace, the North Korean nuclear armament. I'm sure that most of you have heard about North Korea's declaration that it possesses nuclear weapons and will indefinitely postpone its participation in the six-party talks. The news must have come as a shock to all of you, but not as much as it has to many Korean people. The North Korean nuclear issue is not confined only to the Korean Peninsula or Northeast Asia, but it is a potent problem that could undermine the very foundation of global non-proliferation. If North Korea's nuclear ambition is not stopped now, a nuclear domino effect will take place in Northeast Asia, eventually toppling down the worldwide NPT regime. This is why the US and other nations put top priority on the nuclear disarmament of North Korea. In order to deal with the North Korean nuclear standoff in a peaceful manner, I believe that the global community must make it clear to North Korea that it will never tolerate the nuclear armament of North Korea. At the same time, we need to take a bold and comprehensive approach to show North Korea that giving up its nuclear weapons is actually the way to protect its regime while achieving economic development. It appears that North Korea chose to develop nuclear weapons as a means to maintain its post-totalitarian regime in the wake of the collapse of communism. But nuclear weapons do not guarantee the survival of its regime. A case in point is the former Soviet Union, which fell apart although it was assumed to have incomparably more nuclear weapons than North Korea. In the same way, I believe that North Korea will achieve what it wants, including economic development, but not by isolating itself and developing nuclear weapons, but by becoming a responsible member of the global community. North Korea will not be able to gain what it desires through nuclear weapons. Instead, I believe it must give up its nuclear ambitions in order to gain trust and cooperation from the global community and open the doors to mutual development between South and North Korea. However, the North Korean issue is in a deadlock, without showing any signs of resolution. If we continue to waste time, the problem will become even more difficult to solve. This is why the Korean people are very frustrated and concerned. I believe this situation will be harmful to South Korea, North Korea, and the U.S. When contemplating the reason why we are not seeing advancements in the six-party talks and the solution to this situation, I come to the conclusion that the problem is a lack of trust. The reason that the U.S. and the North Korea continue to demand that the other side take the first steps, with the U.S. saying that North Korea's abandonment of its nuclear weapons must precede any support, and North Korea saying that the U.S.'s security guarantee must precede any abandonment of nuclear weapons, is all because neither side trusts the other. The global community does not trust North Korea, and North Korea is afraid. 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-il and share many insights. I also felt then that the biggest problem was a lack of trust. In order to resolve the North Korean nuclear issue effectively through the six-party talks amidst such distrust, I believe that we need to be more honest with each other and spend more time discussing concrete details rather than principles. First, we need to show North Korea a detailed picture of the hopeful future that awaits them if they give up their nuclear weapons. To do this, I believe that we need to present detailed incentives bold enough to be called a North Korean Marshall Plan for the reconstruction of North Korean economy. On the other hand, we also need to clarify what kind of disincentives will be put in place if North Korea continues its nuclear program. Our policy should be centered on creating an atmosphere for North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons through such measures. Only when these steps are taken will we be able to resolve the nuclear problem. Once the first step toward the resolution of the nuclear standstill is taken, we should make certain from then on that the issue is completely and comprehensively worked out and not simply temporarily subdued. In 1992, South and North Korea declared the Korean Peninsula a non-nuclearization zone. I sincerely hope that this declaration is put to action, ultimately enabling the two nations to go so far as to inspect each other's nuclear status with ensured transparency. I believe the latest North Korean nuclear crisis is a challenge indeed, but can also work out as a major opportunity. This is because, depending on how the nuclear weapons negotiations proceed, the talks could extend as far as to include the issues of missiles, biochemical weapons, and other weapons of mass destruction. as well as a project to build a permanent system of peace on the Korean Peninsula in the future. Over a half century has passed since the end of the Korean War, but the two Koreas still remain technically in a state of truce. The time is ripe for removing the last vestige of the Cold War on the Korean Peninsula. I'm convinced that the process of resolving the North Korean nuclear issue should and will open a new path towards reconciliation and cooperation on the Korean Peninsula through the proactive cooperation of the U.S. and the global community, and the efforts of the two Koreas. In order to deal with the North Korean nuclear threat, the four-nation talks that began here have been expanded to the current format involving 6 nations. North Korea must return to the 6-party nuclear talks as soon as possible to peacefully resolve the nuclear problem. It must also refrain from taking any more provocative actions that could aggravate the situation. North Korea should realize that the patience of global partners is fast running out. Although former President Reagan called the Soviet Union an axis of evil in the past, he was instrumental in most drastically slashing Soviet nuclear stock through earnest negotiations with Soviet leaders, which eventually led to the end of the Cold War. North Korea was also once called an axis of evil, but I truly believe that North Korea's nuclear threat can be peacefully removed through sincere talks with Pyongyang. Diplomatic solution should not be precluded from the list of possible answers just because North Korea cannot be trusted. During this visit, I was able to engage in diverse and in-depth dialogue with U.S. politicians, government officials, and experts. If given the opportunity, I would like to frankly and candidly convey what I have heard and felt here in the U.S. to North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. Also, I, as well as the Grand National Party, which is the leading opposition party in Korea, will hold nothing back in making transpartisan efforts towards the peaceful resolution of the North Korean nuclear issue. I will also make the utmost effort to solidify the Korea-US alliance. Freedom and peace enjoyed by Korea today would not have been possible without a friend called America. Our alliance will play an even greater role in safeguarding and nurturing Korea's peace and freedom in the future. However, there is no denying that the bond between our two countries faces a new challenge and that the nature of our ties is changing. Our two countries used to share a common understanding about the North Korean threat, but it's also true that now there are some people who underestimate the dangers that North Korea can pose. Furthermore, some of the U.S. forces positioned in Korea have been deployed to Iraq, and U.S. forces in Korea are currently being realigned. Such changes are presenting themselves as new challenges for the Korea-U.S. relations. In spite of these challenges, however, the bilateral alliance should be further maintained and strengthened. I am convinced that this is in the best interest of both Korea and the United States. An example can be found in the current emergence of China. If the Korean Peninsula is placed under the influence of China, and the U.S. could only rely on its alliance with Japan, this would clearly undermine U.S. interests. Our task now is, therefore, to seek a way to reinforce the Korea-U.S. alliance in the 21st century. For a new phase in the friendship between our two countries, you should be able to see from the other's perspective In other words, I believe that the most important factor in the Korea-US alliance is the ability to put ourselves in each other's shoes. We need to know how to understand each other better if we are to become more trustworthy friends. The new Korea-US alliance should be reciprocal relationship. Korea should be prepared to make reciprocal contributions if it expects deterrence and security cooperation from the United States. Based on the common values and interests of freedom, human rights, democracy, and market economy, our two countries must face the new threat together and honor the promises made to each other. Leaders of those nations should convince their peoples with vision and courage in order to restore the U.S.-Korea alliance. In this regard, I have something to ask of the members of Columbia University. I want you to see the changing Korea through different eyes and be open-minded in viewing the U.S. from a Korean perspective. The same can be said of Korea too. Only when Korea broadens its views to outside the confines of the Korean Peninsula and tries to understand and approach the Korea-US alliance from a global perspective, can it have a more realistic and balanced look of the world? Your image of Korea and the Korean Peninsula may have been limited to just North Korean issue because of a flood of reports on North Korea's nuclear program or the North Korean situation. But there is more to Korea than what you see or hear on the media. Korea is a very dynamic and bright country where state-of-the-art IT technology is embedded in our daily lives. You may already be well aware that Asia is presently undergoing seismic change, which is being spearheaded by the rapid changes taking place in Korea. I heard of an American high school student who experienced a cultural shock during a visit to Korea. The student was taken aback by four things: that there were so many handsome and beautiful people, that everyone was carrying a cutting-edge mobile IT device, that nobody was afraid to roam the streets late at night, and that everybody was so healthy and fit. All of these come as nothing new to us Koreans, but obviously this American student found them extraordinary. I want to suggest you come to Korea to see these surprising aspects yourselves. The new Korea-US alliance could be further strengthened when Korean and American people become friends who know a lot more about each other. Please visit Korea one day. You will certainly have an interesting and surprising experience in the land of morning comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman Park Geun-hye, for a very insightful presentation. I am Jung Ho Roon, the director of the Center for Korean Legal Studies at the Law School, and I will be moderating the question and answer period. For sake of efficiency, what I would propose is that I will take three questions in blocks of three. And for those of you who have a question, you can raise your hands and then come to the, oh, not yet. Come to the center. I think our assistant has a mic. Since this is a question and answer, just one rule, if I may, is that if you could pose your questions in the form of a question and not a comment, and concisely, and if you could identify who you are, your name and affiliation, that would be very nice. And in particular, Chairwoman Park has indicated an interest in speaking with students, so I encourage students who are here to speak up if you can. If you wish, you may ask the question in Korean, and I will do a summary translation into English. For those of you who asked the question in English, I believe the interpreter will privately interpret for Chairwoman Park. The Chairwoman, in keeping with protocol, will answer in Korean and be translated by the translator. Okay, so I'd like to now open it up and start with 3 people. And let me just start with this side first. Okay, you, and then Dr. Song. Okay, if you could come to the center aisle. Does somebody have a mic? Oh, okay, the mic's right here. So if the 3 people could actually just be ready to come, that would be very nice. Where's the microphone?
Do you think Korea and China's policy of engagement and dialogue with the DPRK for its denuclearization would be a better policy vis-a-vis the United States policy of regime change? And particularly when Rice is saying that it's an outpost of tyranny and that it's more important to discuss that than denuclearization?
That's the first question.
그는 독재의 전투 기지라는 좀 이런 표현을 쓰기도 하셨는데 이런 문제가 비핵화보다 오히려 더 중요하다는 그런 문제였습니다. 어떻게 생각하시는지?
Okay, next question. We'll take 3 questions at a time.
My question is not directly related to Korea-American relationship or East Asian region, but I'd like to ask a question about GNP party and its platform. What do you stand for? I mean, late President Park Chung-hee represents the practical vision that we as a nation can go forward, and that really propelled our nation. But what does GNP stand for right now? I mean, you have been talking about like young conservatism and warm conservatism and new conservatism, but that doesn't really motivate Korean people, especially young people. So I'm just wondering what you as a popular party in South Korea wants to present as a vision of South Korea to go forward in the 21st century.
저는 한미 거리와 동아시아 관계에 대해서 여쭤보고 싶으면요. 한나라당에 대해서 여쭤보고 싶습니다. 한나라당이 도대체 하고자 하는 것이 무엇인지에 대해서 여쭤보고 싶은 것입니다. 박정희 대통령 시절에는 실질적 비전을 가지고 앞으로 진보하자는 그런 확실한 비전이 있었는데요. 한나라당의 경우는 젊은 보수, 온정적 보수, 새로운 보수 이런 말들이 있지만 실질적으로 젊은층들에게 동기를 부여할 만한 그런 것은 없습니다. 실제로 보면 한나라당의 비전, 한국을 위한 비전은 무엇입니까?
Okay, the last question for Dr. Song.
Samuel Song. I cannot start without saying my complimentary words. President Park, Mrs. Park, gave me a congratulatory shake hand on February 26, 1965, on the occasion of conferring PhD degree at the commencement of Seoul National University. I value my memory and it's sentimental to face Professor and Mrs. Park's doctor as leader of opposition. I enjoy my academic freedom in this great institution, having the best Korean study and Korean research center outside the Korean Peninsula. And 3 gentlemen sitting here from East Asia Institute always give me ample opportunity and generous for my unusual voice, occasionally high-tone voice, but I always exercise my academic institution.
Having said that, just ask a question, please. I'm sorry, Dr. Song, you need to ask a question.
Okay. Are there any differences in opposition party policy with the ruling party in the most important areas of your visiting and also Speaker Kim's visit in Washington February 7th at the CSIS sponsored meeting. The key question is, now it's a serious situation between United States and Korea. Most serious situation, as you know, because of Japan equation.
And what is your
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off. Because we need to get
what is your
opportunity to other
policy
people.
with this situation?
Okay, thank you.
질문하도록 하겠습니다. 대표님께서 말씀해 주실 부탁드리고 싶은 것은요. 일단 지금 방법 목적 중에서 가장 중요한 부분이라고 생각되는 부분에 있어서 여당과 야당의 정책적인 차이에 대해서 말씀해 주시기 바랍니다. 최근에 또 김원기 의장님께서도 미국을 방문하셔서 CSIS에서 연설을 하시고 그러셨는데 이 부분에 대해서 말씀을 해주시고 또 그 외에도 지금 한미 관계가 상당히 심각하다는 그런 여론도 있고 특히 일본 문제를 띄워서 이 문제를 생각하는 분들이 있는데 여기에 대한 입장 좀 말씀해 주시기 바랍니다. Could I just ask what points your